The back and forth continues tonight between President Trump and Representative Ilhan Omar, exchanging more harsh rhetoric in a fight that just will not die down.
CBN News chief political analyst David Brody is here. David, President Trump is not backing down, and nor is the so-called squad.
For sure, it is a political death match. It's a cage match, WWF, all those syllables for sure. It really is Armageddon out there. And look, racism and politics, not a day goes by without the toxic subject making an appearance. Now, the latest entry, a presidential tweet calling Muslim Congresswoman Ilhan Omar America-hating and an anti-Semite, and Omar firing back.
Right now, even when we're talking about the president, people will say, you know, his remarks are racist, and will forget the inherent racism that has always been part of him.
Also part of the latest back and forth, Trump tweeting how Omar and her liberal freshman squad members are a nightmare for America.
I think it's clear that President Trump wants to make a foil out of the squad.
Caitlin Conan is the political director for CBS News. Trump has no doubt taken what he views as the squad's anti-American views and morphed it from a news cycle to both a news cyclone and a new contour for the 2020 race. But will that guarantee a second term?
In 2016, President Trump won election in large part due to independence. And I think they would probably rather be talking about the economy, the courts, than having this Twitter fight play out between the president and the squad.
But conservative groups see an opening. They found these comments that Palestinian Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib made a few months ago.
I'm more Palestinian in the halls of Congress than I am anywhere in the country in the world.
The material is not hard to find. In the research for this story, we came across this interview from Ilhan Omar when she was running for Congress.
A lot of conservatives in particular would say that the rise in Islamophobia is a result not of hate, but of fear, a legitimate fear, they say, of quote-unquote jihadist terrorism, whether it's Fort Hood or San Bernardino or the recent truck attack in New York. What do you say to them?
I would say our country should be more fearful of white men across our country, because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country. We should be profiling, monitoring, and creating policies to fight the radicalization of white men.
Omar is also now the center of an ethics complaint filed by the conservative group Judicial Watch. It's over allegations that the Somalian-born congresswoman may have married her biological brother, and in the process committed perjury, immigration fraud, and marriage fraud. Reporters like Jeff Mason of Reuters know this is just the beginning of a fight relished by the White House.
In general, I think they've been relatively happy with how the last week has gone. I mean, a lot of controversy for sure, but it's coming down to be a clear part of his strategy going into the 2020 campaign.
As this political food fight plays out, here's something to keep in mind. The president may be toxic and despised by liberals, but his approval rating is far higher than anyone from the squad. Recent polling shows the highest any of the squad members get is AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who clocks in at a whopping 23%.
David, you know, what Congresswoman Ilhan Omar is saying may not be statistically inaccurate, but is there some level of hypocrisy here? You know, the media seems to kind of be treating her with kid gloves when it comes to race, yet she is hitting with raw fists when it comes to President Trump and a lot of his supporters.
It's a really good point, Jenna, and the media has been treating her that way, and the media typically has been somewhat complicit in all this as the years have gone by. However, along comes Donald Trump. He's not treating her with kid gloves, as she knows and as the squad knows, and that's the difference this time. Because with Donald Trump, he's the best counterpuncher in the business, and so what happens is when Ilhan Omar delivers those type of remarks, well, Donald Trump is going to pretty much match her, if you will, word for word.
Today, Christopher Wray, the FBI director, he testified on Capitol Hill, David, saying that the FBI made about 100 domestic terrorism arrests this year. Most of those are related to white supremacy in one way or another. How do you square that?
Well, there's no doubt that domestic terrorism is a problem in this country. I mean, I think no one's disputing that. I think the issue here is that, and the context is interesting, that when Ilhan Omar was asked about Islamic terrorism in the United States, because remember, there are a lot of plots that have been foiled as well, beyond Fort Hood and all of those other ones, San Bernardino. when she was asked about it, she quickly deflects. And I watched 3 or 4 Al Jazeera interviews with her. She doesn't really want to talk about Islamic terrorism as much as she wants to talk about domestic terrorism. And I think that's kind of an interesting tactic here, where she pretty much doesn't give it oxygen and rather wants to give oxygen a whole lot more to the domestic terrorism angle, which kind of plays to what Christopher Wray was saying on Capitol Hill today.
David, as far as this war of words continues to play out, how does this benefit President Trump?
Well, there's a couple different ways it benefits President Trump. First of all, President Trump, this just in, he's been branded. We know who he is. There is no more that you can do from a negative standpoint to President Trump. All of the criticism is out there. AOC, on the other hand, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, all blank slates. And when you have a blank slate and you have President Trump punching pretty hard, you have the real chance of those numbers, that 23% for AOC, to go quickly downward. And if they go downward, and if he defines them as the face of the party, that's bad news for Pelosi, it's bad news for the Democrats, and good news for Trump in 2020.
What does it mean for Joe Biden, who is seen as sort of more of the moderate candidate?
Right. Well, this makes Joe Biden look like a far-right conservative. I mean, according to the squad, the squad has really gone so far left that Joe Biden, all of a sudden, I have to tell you, kind of picked up some steam in the latest polls that we've seen recently. And that doesn't surprise me because, once again, if the sand is shifting to the left underneath Biden, Joe Biden's got to be smiling all the way to the bank or the political bank. I don't know what bank he shops at, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Withdrawals from?
Withdrawals from, thank you. I'm glad you know what I'm saying.
We got it. Thanks, Dave.